This is Ken with Vioti TV. We just heard from Chris Carabello of Metaswitch. You gave the keynote speech here at the 2011 IP Possibilities Conference. One of the things you touched upon is innovation, and you talked about 3 types of innovation. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, 3 types of innovation. Business model innovation, which involves getting the best network you possibly can and building a better broadband infrastructure. Second was organizational innovation, which involves changing and evolving your corporate culture, evolving what I call your IP IQ, so getting your team more future-oriented versus past-oriented. And 3, services innovation, also known as marketing innovation. So really being responsive to what your customers are looking for, building new packages, new bundles that are more in tune with the so-called digital lifestyle, as I call it. And increasingly what I've found as I engage our customers is, particularly in the last 2, there's a lot of challenges. And what I wanted to talk about today is some of those challenges and how to overcome them.
And so the last 2, culture innovation, service model innovation. What's the most difficult one to get around?
Well, I think they kind of go hand in hand. When you kind of have a legacy mindset, you have a lot of maybe internal conflicts, maybe a lot of analysis paralysis, and there's a lot of things to consider, granted, but you have to also acknowledge, and I gave the example of some of the marketing engagements I do where there's munis, there's CLECs, there's over-the-top providers, and generally the rural ILECs look at with envy some of those other providers at the pace in which they can get things done internally and therefore externally when they try to get that out to the customers. So you have to listen to the customers, you have to talk to the customers. Hey, they want bundles, they want features, they want integrated communications devices. So we just talked a little bit about apps that can be deployed on smartphones that are wireline apps that you can deliver. So just being a little bit faster in response to customer needs, and part of that involves changing your corporate culture.
Do you see any elements of success or commonalities, I guess, in companies that have shifted their culture? What have they done to kind of, make that change?
Yeah, a couple customers that I've worked with, have expanded the base of their revenues and diversified their revenue streams. I think we all see a future changing where the revenues that you're getting for today has to come from a different source. So this involves getting more what I call customer-driven revenue versus maybe government or regulatory-driven revenue. And what I talked about today was building around the pipe. So you have a wonderful relationship with your customer through your billing and through the pipe, but what other applications can you layer on top of that? Home security, Geek Squad was talked about this morning. On the business side, sort of cloud services. So building around the pipe, and then maybe also expanding your business models. And I know Gary talked a little bit about that, either going out of region or doing more wholesale or expanding your distribution breadth beyond just your own badged employees, but maybe other partners. And then from a culture side, just really incenting and compensating and motivating your people a little bit different way. Encouraging them to educate themselves, giving them compensation based on the total sales performance of a given product. I talked a little bit about maybe upgrading your website or even changing your corporate brand and logo, maybe away from telephone company to maybe broadband provider. So those are sort of some of the best practices I've seen.
Yeah, and you gave an example of one company. I know their business-to-business revenues continue to have double-digit growth, annually. And I don't know if you want to talk specifically about some of the things they're doing as far as the digital voice and so forth.
Yeah, I gave 2 examples today of well-known providers of what I call voice as an application service or digital voice service. One was Shore West, who launched a triple play bundle, fiber-based bundle, and they were able to have 40% of the customers who were going to leave, 40% of customers who've left came back to their triple play bundle because in part the voice service was so feature rich and so well integrated with the other elements of their bundle. AT&T, a little bit bigger example, but they've really transformed their business and they say, all right, we're going to be a voice as an applications vendor, and they offered customers, do you want your voice to be a wireless voice or do you want it to be a wireline voice? And 70% of the customers who adopt UVerse take the wireline option instead of going for the wireless option. So there's all these assumptions about, customers are going wireless or customers are going with competitors. And I talked a little bit about today that, we just have to change the perspective on that. Customers aren't leaving voice, they're leaving for some perceived value that they're getting from somewhere else. And the good news is, we're seeing evidence that you can provide that same sort of value that customers, will encourage them to stay with you.
And it sounds like you may not be able to get the entire market like you once could, but if you expand into other markets, then it can be whole.
Yeah. Well, I unfortunately gave an analogy of an R-like business strategy of the melting ice cubes. And if you just relied on your current business, watch that melt away either as your voice lines defected or even in some cases, as we heard, your population cedes, then you're going to be in a world of hurt. So you have to expand your business models. You have to expand your product revenues from more customer-driven revenue sources. And again, I'm very optimistic because you've got the network, you've got the relationships with the customers. You need to get that trust relationship and be considered the go-to resource from those customers. And once that loyalty is there, they're going to buy more stuff from you. You just have to get those applications out the door faster than your competitors.
Well, Chris, I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
thank you.
you.